breath. So how many of you have been traveling lately? Raise your hand if you've been on the road or on a plane or whatever. Yeah. So as we slide into these last few weeks of the year, so many of us do hit the roads. We fly the skies. We visit family and friends. We go on little vacations. It's just that time of year for us to do those kinds of things. And actually, I counted up, and over the last 2 months of some traveling that Terry and I've done, I've woken up in 9 different places. 9 different places. And I've titled my talk today, Waking Up at Home, because for me, quite frankly, that's my basic goal for the next several weeks, just wake up at home. And I actually want to talk about that sentence from a couple of different perspectives of waking up at home. The first one is a literal interpretation of it, waking up at home, literally falling asleep and waking up in your own bed. And since our monthly theme is spirituality and home, I think it's important for us to create for ourselves a home that we can feel cozy and safe in, that safe place to land, enough so that we can sleep peacefully there. And there's really nothing better than coming home to your own sheets, your own pillows, your own comfort items, your own mattress, your own routine, your own people. There's something really awesome about that. We may all have different preferences and ideas of what it looks like, but I don't know anyone who doesn't like sleeping in their own home and waking up at home. As a matter of fact, I don't know about you, but when I'm traveling, I keep thinking about my home, right? My home is just waiting there for me to return. And when I'm wrestling with the unfamiliar stiff linens in a hotel, or maybe for you, you're waking up on a half-flattened air mattress in a tent, or maybe you're trying to figure out how to work the air in the Airbnb, whatever. You're thinking about home wherever you are. We keep thinking about home, but what are we craving? I think we're longing for that sense of familiarity and comfort, or some feeling we have inside ourselves when we are held in the arms of our home. And I think that's pretty universal. The concept of home is actually one of the primal archetypes of humanity. Home is depicted in almost every story. There are countless songs. I'm sure Derek had a long list of songs he could have chosen to sing about home over the different genres and all the ages of humanity. It's the place defined for almost every character in every art form. And when you think about it, homes have looked very different over the ages. Varied from country to country. Home varies in different cultures, but human beings understand the need for home, the pull of home, the love of home. It's kind of in our DNA. It's where our story begins and where our story ends. And for some of us, the idea of home has been built on this foundation of stability and safety and love from our family of origins home life. And that's a pattern to recreate as we become adults in a home of our own. I actually saw a meme on social media this week. It said something like this: people who were raised in love see things very different than those raised in survival. Isn't that the truth, right? Loving upbringings are very different than survival upbringings. And it's kind of like we're set out on 2 completely different paths to grow up when we grow up out of love versus out of survival. Can you relate to that? Yeah, I see some heads nodding. Because what I think it is that what I've found is that when individuals grow up out of a loving environment, growing up in a stable and peaceful and supportive and loving home, there's this deep desire to recreate that for themselves in their own environment. And sometimes I've found that there's great disappointment when you can't quite seem to replicate what your parents had going on. There's at least a struggle for independence. Because you see, it doesn't matter what you come up out of, you still have to find your own path, your own way. And so that's one way to travel away from the home where we grew up. But on the flip side, the idea of home can be a very confusing concept to explore for many who grow up in a survival mode, like Derek's saying about, because of an experience of this tumultuous family life, many of us hesitate to completely own the challenge of creating a nurturing home environment for ourselves as adults. And quite frankly, there is no mental equivalent for what we crave. You know, in the Science Mind, we talk about the ability to hold a mental equivalent in order to create something that we want. And part of the healing process, or the growing process that we all grow through, is we get to create our own definition of home. We each get to decide what essential elements must be a part of our home for it to feel like home and for it to feel like ours. So we each get to choose the feeling of our home, who gets to come and go, whether or not there is a pet, how it's decorated. Most importantly, in my opinion, what is the emotional vibration that means home to me? One nuance to this idea of home is the presence of the whole concept of God being a part of a home life. Many of us grew up in homes that were heavily influenced by religious ideology. Please tell me I'm not the only one. Raise your hand if you grew up in deep religious ideology. And that ideology may have fit some members of the family, but so often it doesn't fit those of us who find ourselves in rooms like this as adults. Redefining home is often a redefinition of God itself, and bringing that newly discovered or newly found and defined essence or understanding of spirit into your space. I feel a very, very big difference in the feel of my childhood home being filled with this vibration of a judging, punishing God energy in my home, and my current home that's filled with this vibration of an understanding of God that is peaceful and loving and benevolent, joyful, harmonious. It's a completely different vibration, right? And actually for me, for many, many years, my home didn't have a vibration of spirit at all. And I had moved so far away from it. So coming to this place and choosing to bring spirit back into my home with intentionality, that was powerful work for me to do for myself. But we all have a dream of home. And I carried that dream inside of my whole life, and I ached for it. My dream of home was a place of beauty. It was a place to rest and live peacefully. Home always had a dog in my dream, too. There's always a dog. It was warm and inviting and filled with love and laughter, and I know you have a dream of home, too. We all do. So creating a home that you really want to rush back to and wake up in is not something to be taken very lightly. And as I said, is one of the central challenges of adulthood. And that brings me to my second interpretation of the phrase, waking up at home. The second way of looking at that phrase is about what it means to find or create a home for ourselves and choosing to wake up there, to evolve or transform in your chosen home. So when we look at the concept of home from that perspective, the word that comes to mind for me is belonging. I feel at home in any space where I feel like I belong. And once we feel like we belong, or we're at home in a place, we can choose to wake up there, or to heal there, or to evolve there. And the truth is, we cannot completely heal in a situation until we feel like we belong. But let's never forget that we are spiritual beings zipped inside of these magic suits, having a human experience. But at the core, we are spiritual beings. And the deepest truth is that our belonging is already a given. We spend our lives searching for places where we can belong on the human realm, but spiritually, we belong in God, and therefore we belong to each other always. Waking up to that truth is what we're here to do. And we can do that waking up whenever we feel that vibration of home. We talk from time to time about the hero's journey. We talked about that in Sacred Cup this morning. And we're all on that hero's journey. We all are. We might be in one phase of it or another, but we are all on it. It's a classic story. The young person gets restless in their life. They set out to find themselves and to find their own strengths and powers. And you know how it goes. The person gets into challenges and experiences trials and troubles and challenges and puzzles to solve, and basically they find the dragons, so to speak, that they have to slay. And through each of these elements in life, these particular experiences, that person learns to love more, they've learned more about themselves and what life requires of them, how to interact with the world around them. And then what happens? They wake up and realize that they can return home, a changed person, and bring all their power back to bless others. And that's basically the hero's journey. And this hero's journey is a central theme to almost every Disney storyline, video game challenges, you're on a hero's journey, fables, myths, even Bible stories, right? Actually, every faith tradition seems to have some version of the hero's journey as a part of their sacred writings. Our souls understand this archetypal story. And one of the greatest examples of the hero's journey, in my opinion, is Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. If you haven't read the book, pick it up, read it, it's great. It's about a young man who sets out to find his treasure, and he learns many pieces of wisdom along the way. I'll share some quotes from that in a minute. So think about your own journey, both on the human level and the spiritual level. We're all on the path, discovering who we are as human beings, but also who we are as spiritual beings too. We're discovering that too, and what kind of power we really have. And each situation we find ourselves in is one where we can wake up to our human abilities, but also wake up to more of the spiritual truth and power, our connection to this God-given power. And in The Alchemist it says, there is only one way to learn. It's through action. Everything you need to know, you have learned through your journey. So I want you to think for a second this morning. Think about a challenge that you are currently facing. Think about a challenge you are currently facing, and think of yourself as a growing hero in the making. What is this challenge teaching you about the human level of life, the physical puzzle you must solve, the talent you are growing, the relationship you're engaged in, whatever it is at the human level? But then also consider that very same challenge from a spiritual perspective. How is it calling for you to remember the concept of oneness? What is there in this challenge to be grateful for? Who in this challenge is there to forgive? Who in this challenge is there for you to love? How is this person in this challenge showing up as the face of God for you to recognize? How is this challenge breaking something inside you to make you even stronger? Ernest Hemingway said, the world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places. That's kind of a hero's journey sentence, because the hero moves through each breaking and grows stronger and more connected to him or herself. So look at your life circumstances and know that you're on a journey to return to your own true self, and that home already resides within you. It's the evolutionary process that calls these circumstances, these challenges to you. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, said, evolution is the awakening of the soul to a recognition of its unity with the whole. Because every challenge we face is about feeling disconnected, feeling like we're apart from the solution, right? What he's saying is that the power and presence of God is in you, awaiting your discovery and your relationship with it. And the awakening process leads you back to that recognition, back to it. And The Alchemist, it said that It is said that all people who are happy have God within them. I would just say all people that are sad also have God within them. It doesn't matter. But I think the happy person recognizes that God is within them. Because the final leg of the hero's journey is what? It's the return home. The person who returns home from the hero's journey is very different than the one who left. The hero is one who summoned the courage to set out on the journey, transcending false limitations in order to return to this essence of being within themselves. The journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about being the best possible version of yourself that you can be. Psychologically and spiritually mature adults. Ooh, that's a statement. Psychologically and spiritually mature. What does it mean to be psychologically and spiritually mature? It means that we face our challenges and our fears head on. We don't ignore them, we don't wish them away or deny their existence. We go into the dark caves of our lives, of our fears, and we unearth the truth of our own courage and strength. We see these experiences part of the evolutionary journey. Heroes have learned to not see themselves as victims because they take responsibility for their own lives without the need to blame or shame anyone else. They've accepted full responsibility of circumstances. They make changes when changes are necessary to have greater satisfaction and joy. They understand that accountability is the greatest doorway to what? Freedom. Because when we take accountability, we can open our own doors to freedom. And getting through that doorway is the purpose of the journey. And guess what heroes also do? They release things that no longer serve them. They don't need to cling to anything that is less than who they are becoming, who they know themselves to be now. They clear their hearts, their minds, and their environments of anything that does not take them further along the path. Holding on to artifacts from old lessons and challenges only weighs the hero down. Most powerfully, heroes live as a part of the whole. There comes a time when the hero realizes that everyone and everything is connected, and how they choose to show up impacts everything else around them in the universe of experience. And realizing this truth and living it every day are two different things. Realizing it and living it, two different things. But heroes have that knowingness of oneness. That's the root of everything. So it's time to wake up at home and live as the spiritual heroes that we are. Let's remember the truth of where we come. We come from spirit itself. And when we recognize that truth, we can be at home wherever we are. And when we embody oneness, other people feel at home with us, with you. We empower others to remember what it is to be at home and to be the hero of their own journey. The highest truth is that you're at home wherever you go, because you carry within you that feeling of unconditional love and freedom and peace and support and joy as your spiritual birthright. Those are all within you. And when you bring to your daily living that wisdom and insight, others can recognize your light and your example. And your example makes it possible for them to continue on their journey to find themselves within themselves. That's the whole point, and that's what makes the circle complete. So the longing for home already exists. It's not outside of us. No one else can create home for us. Our true home exists within. It's up to each of us to find the keys for ourselves. And we may point the way for others, but they have to open those doors themselves. So as I pointed out earlier, when I'm traveling, I long for home, the place where I feel the love, belonging, joy, and comfort. And no matter where we are on our evolutionary journey, we also long for that same thing. So let's remember the power is ours to return to the place we long for whenever we choose. Waking up at home is your purpose for being alive. And I'm going to close with a quote from The Alchemist, and I think it's too long to go on the screen. It says, "We are travelers on a cosmic journey, stardust, swirling and dancing in the eddies and whirlpools of infinity. Life is eternal. We have stopped for a moment to encounter each other, to meet, to love, to share. This is a precious moment. It is a little parenthesis in eternity." And so it is. Welcome home.